Yo, how's it going, my bones? SilverDFanng back with more YouTube reactions. We got History and Biology of the Omegaverse by Strange Aeons. We've seen another Strange Aeon video before. That was the history of Rar XD. I might have to just look up more of her videos because this was a hoot, that was a hoot. Have fun, enjoy.
Heat suppressants, and it's worked out well for him so far. He's managed to secure a job teaching at the FBI Academy, although the alphas he works with find him kind of Hello friends, the topic of this video is Omegaverse, but today we are specifically going to be talking about the biology behind this genre, as well as the story of where a lot of these ideas came from.
There's no need to be embarrassed about it, Mr. Spock. It happens to the birds and the bees.
Now, if you are video essay gremlins, you probably know about
I like essay gremlins.
Thanks to these two Lindsay Ellis videos from a couple of years ago.
I remember these. Yeah, First of all, shout out Lindsay Ellis, but yeah, I remember those.
But for those of you who don't, for those of you sitting there asking, what is Omegaverse? I am accepting the responsibility of being the one who tells you.
You poor soul.
So it's like a fantasy, erotica, romance genre, originating from fan fiction, but making its way into published work these days.
So much published work.
Like an alternative human biology that is loosely based on wolf pseudoscience. Sherlock has infiltrated a school of alphas and betas, posing as a chemistry professor for a—
Sherlock? Oh my fucking god. Fanfiction be wild. Sherlock meets the Omega... Someone just wanted Sherlock to fuck a dude.
Case. John is a beta student at the school, or so he thinks, until the day he presents as an Omega in Sherlock's class. In Georgian England, male Omegas are very rare diamonds. Baron and Baroness Graham have a plan to build their wealth and social status by offering their son Will's hand in marriage to a mysterious older duke, an alpha named Lord Hannibal Lecter, Secretary of State.
God. Look, some fanfiction is well done. This is the cringy shit.
Thomas Jefferson might not be the alpha he says he is, and no one ever needs to find out about that. The thing is, they do. John can't seem to get pregnant. After every heat is a big disappointment, but they keep trying. Sherlock starts to blame himself and his past drug use as the reason he can't get John pregnant. Will Graham has hidden his Omega status using heat suppressants, and it's worked out well for him so far. He's managed to secure a job teaching at the FBI Academy, although the alphas he works with find him kind of small and jumpy.
May I wish, but to certain sections of the internet, this is top tier.
The nature of his job keeps anyone from guessing his status as an Omega, until he goes into heat at a crime scene. In addition to being assigned male or female at birth,
fucks a dead body.
Everyone is also assigned Alpha, Beta, or Omega based on biological characteristics. Hence why Omegaverse is sometimes also called ABO or ABO dynamics. Alphas are larger, aggressive, and have giant— An alpha in the vicinity of an Omega in heat—
You never forget the big dick.
Cannot control himself. He must have the Omega, bond with them, and own them.
There is a book literally about the biology of Omegaverse. God damn it.
When they send an Omega in heat, alphas are literally unable to help themselves, driven by a biological imperative to mate with the Omega. Omegas are smaller, not as aggressive, and can be impregnated. When an Omega will go into heat, during which time they have little, if any, control of their actions, Omegas have a biological imperative to be bred, and want giant that the alpha is—
Okay, this leads into a thing I've talked about for years that I hate. In anime, especially in yaoi, it's mostly the big, intense dude dominating a smaller dude, and it usually ends with sex that's one-sided. And I feel like this is just a new subcategory that, for some reason, a lot of writers of gay fiction love the domination thing, and I don't get it.
Is offering any alpha. Many universes have Omegas banned from many jobs, such as the military. They also frequently suffer from second-class legal and social status. Insert any terrible legal, social, or workplace thing that women face, and you have the standard Omega. Then there's betas, which are basically just normal people. They might want to mate with alphas or omegas, but they don't really have any of the special characteristics of either. Some authors choose not to have any betas and just have the entire population be alphas or omegas. The most popular choice by far, though, is to make like 90% of the population betas, and then just a special small percentage of people have wolf penises or whatever. Some stories choose to have alphas and omegas be like 1% of the population or smaller and have them live in secret, similar to other fantasy creatures. The whole rest of the setting also vary.
The most mystical creature, a twink. I am a fae. I am a fairy. I am being hunted by people who want my magic. I am a centaur, half man, half horse. People want my hooves. I am an omega. I have a fat ass that wants to be ridden.
Up to a writer's individual preferences. You can have gritty dystopia Omegaverse. You can have fantasy Omegaverse. Regular 21st century Omegaverse. Omegaverse, but the characters are also in the mafia. Like, literally, whatever you want. There are 36 potential pregnancy options between the characters in an Omegaverse. I've put them into a handy chart. The impregnated person...
Let me turn off closed caption. Okay. Alpha female to alpha female, maybe. Alpha male to alpha female, yes. Beta female, alpha female, no. Beta male, alpha female, maybe. Omega female, alpha female, no. I'm sorry, but isn't the whole thing of Omegas they want to be pregnant? So lady on lady, no. Omega male, okay.
Who will be carrying the child in the chosen uterus equivalent, or just plain uterus, is on the left. The columns represent the potential impregnator/sperm provider. As an example, beta females almost never impregnate anyone. Male alphas impregnate anyone who has the uterus to be impregnated. Nora Bombay clarifies that the source of this data is AO3 Fix that they've analyzed, and that it excludes any possible transgenders that might exist in Omega.
Okay.
These are just the 36 possible pregnancy options between the cisgenders of Omegaverse. And then, of course, there will always be individual authors who decide to completely ignore the conventions and impregnate their alpha males anyway. Now, because...
Yeah, let's be fair. No one actually... Let's be fair. This is just a thin way of being like, I want to impregnate man-on-man action. Everything else is just... Some people take it serious. Most of them just, I want a way in my story to impregnate a man being fucked by a man.
Because alpha and omega mating is very driven by uncontrollable instincts and overwhelming hormones. It doesn't...
Oh, there's a lot of... Yeah, you're right, May. There's a lot of different avenues that made this come to place.
Always aligned very well with our own values around consent. Can an omega in heat meaningfully consent? Probably no. Is a hormone-crazed, rampaging alpha entitled to sex from unwilling partners? Definitely no. Due to this, a lot of early Omegaverse content, and still some to this day, falls into the category of dubcon or dubious consent. That alone, before we even get to the wolf penises, is enough to put off a lot of potential readers. The catastrophic containment breach, which introduced Omegaverse to a lot of non-fanfiction reading audiences, was of course the lawsuit that happened a couple of years ago. In a post-E.L. James world, anything is possible. We've seen all kinds of fanfictions have the serial numbers filed off and be traditionally published. That includes Addison Cain's 2016 novel Born to be Bound. In 2018,
I've heard of this. I have heard of this book.
Addison Cain accused another author, Zoe Ellis, who had also published...
Oh, right. Yeah. No, Lindsay Ellis. This was one of her videos. Her videos was literally talking about the Omegaverse offer feud. I'm not even fucking kidding. There was literally lawsuits, a feud, it was messy, and it was literally just a couple of female writers that all want wolf penis male fucking wolf males. It's insane.
true Omegaverse work of plagiarism. Obviously, you cannot copyright a genre. You can't copyright the typical conventions of an Omegaverse story any more than you can copyright Bad Boy Rides Motorcycle.
Also, you didn't create the fanfiction on AO3.
Or detective searches for clues. Like, those are kind of just things that people expect in some stories. But Addison Kane wasn't actually claiming to have invented Omegaverse or to own Omegaverse. She was claiming specifically to have invented and own heterosexual Omegaverse.
What? This woman is like, no, none of that woke gay shit. I want wolf penis in female penis. Wait, no, female pussy. That's, I created hetero wolf penis.
In fact, she actually targeted multiple authors who published works of het Omegaverse. She didn't invent straight Omegaverse, by the way. She didn't win the lawsuit either. The sex scenes from Kane's book, which are well known on YouTube because of the Lindsay Ellis video with the dramatic readings of them, they're obviously very violent. They're very unpleasant to the majority of readers. They're easy to make fun of. If you're not, like, outright disgusted or triggered by that sort of content, it's easy to read that and be like, oh, okay, so Omegaverse is like garbage. It's badly written. It's ethically the worst. It's irredeemable in every way. Haha, wolf penises, though. People are crazy, am I right? Omegaverse is...
Stop looking at my wolf penis.
Omegaverse is not a monolith. The books involved in the famous Omegaverse lawsuit are not representative of all or even most of it. I promise you, there are Omegaverse rabbit holes that you cannot even begin to fathom yet. Because you know who spent this week cooking their brain in an Omegaverse stew?
Oh, you poor girl.
It's me. It's this freak. And I think it is very worth doing a deep dive on the origins of this genre, the ideas behind it, as well as all of the implications of
I feel bad for this woman.
By a good writer. I will ask you, YouTube viewer, to put aside your prejudices against Omegaverse for just a moment.
Okay.
Put them aside.
Cool.
To a shelf. I'm going to deconstruct them, and then I'm going to teach you about Omegaverse, and then I'm going to give you even new, better prejudices to have against it.
Thank you.
Not really. Maybe. Ultimately, you can take what this video from you want. However, before we get into it, I've also got to tell you a little bit about this video's sponsor, Raycon. Do you have...
It's a year old. She's not making money off of Raycon.
How is she?
Because bodies in Omegaverse stories are so different from our own, a lot of fanfiction writers will put out basically guides or textbooks to accompany their fanfiction so that readers will be aware, like, what rules they're operating with, because they do slightly differ between every work. You can find a lot of these sort of Omegaverse guides out there. Some of them claim to be guides to Omegaverse as a whole, some of them just claim to relate to the author's own work. I will be primarily quoting from one by AO3 user Nora Bombay, because I think it's very thorough, while also acknowledging that there is room for things to be interpreted in different ways or changed by individual authors.
Okay.
And it's also fucking hilarious.
Oh,
so
yay.
It's really good. Also quoted by multiple academic articles on Omegaverse, and also hilarious.
Academic articles on Omegaverse is a sentence I never thought I would hear.
So, 10 out of 10. Let's enjoy. The idea of a mating/heat cycle is key to understanding any Omegaverse fic. Indeed, it is the defining characteristic. Characters who are Omegas go into some sort of mating cycle or heat. This heat can occur as often as monthly, as human menstrual cycles do, or as rarely as every 5 years. Heat frequency is entirely determined by the author. The universal characteristic of each heat cycle is...
You follow Strange Aeon on Tumblr? Nice. I randomly found her, and I'm enjoying her stuff. I haven't seen this.
Is that the Omega really needs to have sex with someone, and the Omega must be the receptive partner. Now, the Omega has conveniently been provided with a self-lubricating to enable this activity. Heats can also be triggered by...
Don't ask me about my self-lubrication.
Such things as soul bonding and alpha, forgetting to take the needed pill, or being surrounded by too many alpha hormones. Think of any terrible story you've read about random periods starting, and that can be found in a fic. In fact, Omegas in heat produce such large quantities of orifice fluids, in universe referred to as slick, that some writers incorporate like an equivalent of menstrual products almost to absorb these fluids. Many worlds feature some kind of workplace discrimination against Omegas, but when Omegas are employed,
Incoming
they
ad
require
break.
heat leave. As one Tumblr user very observantly wrote, "Dude, Omegaverse AUs are low-key insanely sex positive because 90% of everything revolves around sex, and everyone is completely fine with it. Like, imagine taking a week off of work to get railed to hell and back, and your coworkers being 100% okay with it. There's no gossip or drama or anything. Just Mark from HR getting his guts rearranged non-stop Tuesday through Saturday, and coming back to work on Monday with a fresh bite mark on his neck and meeting his colleagues for lunch like nothing happened. What a life."
Girl, I think we read 2 different books. I didn't get that from Omegas are shunned and are seen in a different light, but okay.
During the heat, Omegas will issue hormones that serve as a siren call to all of the alphas and some of the betas in the area. These hormones are considered a public health hazard. This immediate pre-heat period, where the Omega is throwing off huge quantities
I love the idea of like, oh god, my hormones. Spread. No, Omega hormones.
of pheromones that
He's
affect
about to
everyone
get
in a
fucked.
set geographical vicinity is the period of the most danger. The Omega hopefully is able to get to a home or hotel where they will lock themselves in for the duration of the heat. Heat usually lasts from 3 to 5 days. Most of this time is spent having sex. Even if the Omega immediately starts having sex with the Alpha at the beginning of the heat, they are still locked into sex for the next several days. Once mated, there is a high likelihood that the Omega will become pregnant. Depending on the universe, hormonal birth control and or heat suppressants will be available. The equivalent cycle in alphas is called rut. Alphas in rut are interested in nothing other than sex with the Omega, and will violently defend the Omega from any perceived slights or dangers. Mpreg is short for male pregnancy, colloquially known as ass babies. Don't
fucking ass babies.
ask too many questions about the exact genital and orifice structure of the pregnant character. That being said, others have defined exactly how the orifice structure, as well as the reproductive systems of everyone in this universe might look. How would an entrance to a uterus that is also in the rectum? Here's one helpful anatomy.
Oh my god, thank you. Okay, let's just take a second and look at this, boys and girls and everything in between. Alpha female reproductive system. Okay, we got the rectum, the prostate. Unless I'm pretty sure female wolves and females don't have a prostate. Okay. Seminal vesicle, testes. Okay, again, I can be wrong. I think women do have testes. Why is the clitoris in shape of a penis? Omega female reproductive system. We got a bladder. We got a rectum. We got a uterus. We got ovaries. We got a... Okay, so that does say vagina, but because of how it's a little blurred to me, I just saw it as agina. We got an agina. Let me see. Male reproductive system. Alpha male. Bulbaglantis. That's a word. Seminal vesicle, prostate. Why is the what? Okay. I think there's just a person that doesn't understand anatomy. Penis, testes. The Omega penis is so sad. Okay.
Diagram that tries to explain how all of this might work. As you can see, the male Omega does indeed have some sort of a connection, some sort of an ill-defined connection in this area. The female Alpha has something that might work like a retractable penis.
Yeah.
And what is that?
The bulbous gland.
Knotting is the development of a knot at the base of the Alpha's penis, which causes the Alpha to lock into the Omega.
This is just a wolf thing. Knotting is just a wolf thing.
This results in a much higher chance of pregnancy. It is based on the anatomy of dogs and wolves. Apparently knotting, in which the two characters are locked together, can last from anywhere from 10 minutes to hours at a time. Once the alpha and omega are knotted, there is nothing they can do but wait it out. Knotting is usually the trigger for any type of permanent soul bond. Knotting the omega is what makes it count. It is not advised that you Google the animal origins of knotting. However, there are many entrepreneurial organizations that will be happy to sell you adult entertainment devices with knots.
Wait, what?
It is still advised you do not Google.
What?
Scents. Oh my god, thank god this video isn't sponsored by Scentbird. Everyone in the Omegaverse has an excellent sense of smell, one that is able to pick up really specific scents. Frequently, characters are able to tell alpha, beta, omega status, if an omega is pregnant, if heat is occurring, pair bond status, and who the person is pair bonded to. Scents can linger and spread. During a heat, the omega pheromones can go from across the room to across a house to across a city. Scenting. Behavior in which partners rub each other to transfer their scent most frequently happens in the context of nuzzling the neck, may or may not be sexual. Think of what cats do to leave their scent on humans. Add some and you're good to go. Scenting is also sometimes called marking and can involve more or less biting, once again, depending on the writer. Pheromones. In real science, they are, quote-unquote, a secreted or excreted chemical factor that triggers a social response in members of the same species. Or so Wikipedia will have us believe. Some writers
Thanks,
tend to treat
Wikipedia.
pheromones
I'm
more like
hungry.
ill-defined magical force more than like any real example in nature. Obviously, if you're like attracting all the alphas in the city, that's powerful. The plots of Omegaverse fics also very often revolve around omegas trying to hide their status as omegas to fit into a society that discriminates
delicious,
against them.
Chef
It has them using all
Spiral.
kinds of scent masking products, which might be soaps, perfumes, medications, spells, depending on your world building. Another handy thing available to both alphas and omegas is suppressants. An omega on suppressants will not go into heat. An alpha on suppressants will be able to
You know, birth control.
resist the lure of a heat-crazed omega. If the suppressants do not entirely prevent the heat process, they dull urgency and desire to mate. Most commonly, an omega is the one on suppressants. For omegas in the military, serving as secret agents, or in space as astronauts, or working in another tightly controlled environment, suppressants are often mandatory. In universes with soul bonding, sex during the mating period will cement the bond between the omega and the partner. This bond can be for life, or it can be broken by some sort of Omegaverse hormonal divorce. Omegaverse
So pretty much, it's bullshit.
can feature many variations on this idea of being bonded, soul bonded, mated for life, that kind of thing. You can have soulmates who are fated to be together, who have like matching birthmarks or something. You can have soul bonds, which
cutie
can
mark
entail some kind of
wolves.
sensing each other's emotions or being super in tune with each other. Any sort of like supernaturally deep bond that maybe a little bit werewolfy. Some writers will also choose to model their characters
No, just a little werewolfy? No.
social dynamics around wolf packs. The appeal of this is more often like a friendship and found family type of thing than a sexual thing. And our helpful Omegaverse anthropologist Nora Bombay also provides a helpful yet stern sit down about world building with some writers who may be reading this. Ask yourself these questions. Would this setup result in a 100% death rate in the absence of modern medicine? So, immediate call out for people who are writing worlds where male omegas can only give birth via C-section, which is some of them. Basically, for your world building
Great.
not to
I'd rather have the ass baby.
piss people off without a logical...
There are so many sentences out of context I've said in this video that I'm like, I have to remember all of these.
It is. You're going to have to consider the fact that male omegas prior to the 20th century were going to face every difficulty that women did in giving birth, and like maybe even some extra ones given how impractical their anatomy seems. That being said, if your only intention is to write like 2,000 words of porn and then unleash it onto AO3, go crazy, no one cares about your world building. Another thing that you have to consider very closely is the proportion of the population that you want to make alphas, omegas, and betas, because that is going to hugely impact the rest of your world building. Would your choices correlate to stable human population growth throughout all of history? Could it result in a beta uprising? Could it result in alphas taking over society? Oh, and male omegas are probably going to need to lactate also, because given, again, the whole historical infant mortality thing.
Huh.
Oh, because I'm talking about male lactation. We're having fun here. If you say that your world contains an equal amount betas, alphas, and omegas in the population versus Alphas and Omegas only being like 10% or 1% or whatever percent of the population, those are all going to be very different societies. 5 to 15% of the total population, Alpha and Omega people, would probably resemble the demographics of the modern-day Western LGBT population. You have a large enough group that the secret ass babies will not be so astonishingly...
Secret ass babies! Secret ass babies. And they wonder why normies just can't get into this.
Secret, there will be specialty retail establishments meeting all of the heat, knotting, and cleanup related needs of Alpha Omega families. You are going to have retail and catalog establishments. Alphas need to be able to purchase pants with room for their enormous genitals, and specialty supportive undergarments to prevent them from looking like John.
Good sir, my penis is too big. I need big penis pants. Thank you.
Ham on a dog walking expedition. Omega males will have stores specializing in heat relief products, aka giant nodding sex toys, and paternity-maternity wear. Given the theoretical high fertility of the Omega, investing in a high-quality pregnancy wardrobe makes sense. Everyone will have that Alpha
You're going to die. Look fashionable.
Omega cousin, the Alpha Omega sister, or the urban legend type story of that guy they went to high school with who didn't know he was an Omega until he gave birth in the bathroom on prom night.
Oh my fucking god. Oh my god. I didn't know I was pregnant until I had my ass baby.
There is, of course, also huge variation in the way that regular human cultures in the world treat sex and relationships. What are the different cultural norms in Omegaverse? What ABO status were major religious figures? Did Christianity trade the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit for the Alpha, the Omega, and the Beta? How do the Dutch feel about ass
Amen.
babies? How do the Argentinians? Do Alphas and Omegas run stronger in some ethnic groups than others? So maybe like 30% of the Chinese population in diaspora are Alpha and Omega, but only 3% of the Nigerian? Did the Greeks worship the gigantic Alpha phallus? Of course they did. Jane Austen, mousy beta spinster, wrote epic comedies of man...
Okay, Kai. We are learning the history and the anatomy of the Omegaverse. There's way too much I learned in the 20 minutes, and we're not even halfway. Buckle in. You're in for a treat. And by treat, no, it is a treat. I'm having fun.
About the lives of Regency-era Omegas who were to make good bonds and save the family fortunes. Nora Bombay also poses questions
Welcome,
like,
Shy96.
For how much of their lives are male Omegas able to give birth?
Cake's happening in an hour. Right now, Omegaverse.
They go through puberty around the same age as everyone else, but is there an Omega pause similar to menopause? Are there new sexual taboos? A world where 25% of men have uteruses, or 25% of women are capable of impregnating other women, is going to probably develop some new codes of behavior. Is there a societal...
By the way, this is a real book that someone made about the biology and the history and the world building of the Omegaverse stories. These are questions she has put in her book.
Preference for relationships that are at least theoretically fertile?
Yep, the lawsuit was brought up.
Or for ones that aren't? What is considered genitals, and what do they look like? Does an ass that can produce ass babies look different?
By the way, yes, ass babies is the term of when an Omega man gives birth.
From one that can't? Does the alpha female have something visibly different from the Omega? Do people have special underwear?
Also, the alpha women do have an attractable penis.
Is there a taboo against Omega men going out topless? Consider it carefully. Porn is on the line. Oh my god.
Porn!
How many bathrooms are there? Some with backgrounds in biology have even taken a stab at trying to theorize what genetics...
Lindsay Ellis. Yeah, Lindsay Ellis did a big-ass video about the lawsuit.
Might look like, what chromosomes
this is Strange Aeons.
Like, could you come up with a genetic explanation for why the population is divided into whatever percent betas, Omegas, alphas? ABO generally agree that alphans and Omegas are skewed towards the rare side of things, while betas are more numerous. If this is the case, obviously sex determination is not being determined equally across all three sexes. Most fics don't appear to have 1/3 equal distribution. The world seemed to break down into a majority of betas, a smaller number of alphas, and very few Omegas. Unless it's an alpha world or there's some kind of crazy post-apocalyptic Omega breeding camp going on, but that's another story. Most explanations I've seen for this try to account for all possible chromosome combinations resulting in live births. In fact, alphas alphas are less numerous than betas, but are apparently hyper-fertile freaks, so it doesn't make sense for the population distribution. Alphas would just mate with everyone and either get 50% alphas or 100% alphas. There are people who are into Omegaverse for the porn, for the wolf penises, but I promise you, there are also people who are into Omegaverse purely to overanalyze world building. Either the sense...
You gotta love a good geek. Look, it's not enough to watch two wolf dudes fuck. A nerd also needs to know the science of how are they fucking.
Associated with biological sex are exceedingly obvious, or ABO creatures have a very highly developed vomeronasal organ, accessory olfactory system, and accessory olfactory bulb. If the scents associated with biological sex are so obvious that anyone walking down the street gets hit with them, it would probably be a lot harder for
I
all those
recommended
magic
checking
scent-blocking
both
soaps
parts,
and
Kai.
shampoos to work
It's
without
great.
causing their own problems. However, most everyone agrees soaps and shampoos...
I'm not a fan of Omegaverse, but I do find it funny how serious people get. Dude, literally, Strange Aeons said there are academic papers about the Omegaverse.
Shampoos are mild or neutral smelling and usually work except for when plot devices happen. That means the more likely answer is the highly developed vomeronasal organ. The vomeronasal organ is the space between the nose and the mouth. This could have some interesting implications on brain freeze in ABO worlds. Interesting aside, development of the vomeronasal organ is apparently tied to testosterone to some degree, so alphas would likely have better developed organs, which makes that tracking down an Omega in heat from 2 towns over trope a little more believable. Do you think Omegaverse acknowledges COVID-19 and the generation of people who will permanently lose their sense of smell? Like, how are they all scenting each other now? Is the Omegaverse a...
COVID destroyed the Omegaverse. Granddad can't smell Granddad from 2 stories. Granddad doesn't know when Granddad's ready to be fertile and have a new ass baby. Oh my god, how did 6 feet apart work in Omegaverse COVID? Oh, how did isolation work? Damn.
Economy in shambles? Actually, pheromone sensing works differently from normal olfaction. Since humans in our world don't have a functioning vomeronasal organ, VNO, we don't have any data on how COVID-19 would affect a functioning VNO in Omegaverse AU.
No, because this is all made up.
Actually, there is evidence that COVID probably would affect the VNO, and it stands to reason would accordingly impair its function. Apparently there were multiple animal studies that showed an effect on the VNO. It stands to reason that Omegaverse individuals have functioning VNOs similar to members of the animal kingdom, then it is more than reasonable to conclude that COVID may cause them to lose not only their main olfactory function, but also their VNO.
Yeah, Kai, I brought that up too. A big reason why I'm not into the Omegaverse stuff isn't because of this wolf stuff, or because of the whole, like, impregnation, male thing, like, all that stuff, whatever. It's the same reason I can't get into a lot of anime yaoi stuff. It's because a lot of writers and a lot of the fans really love the force sexual relationships way too much.
Function as well, with references. In conclusion, the Omegaverse economy is in shambles. But how did such an idea as Omegaverse come about in the first place?
Women like werewolves, women like porn, women like werewolf porn plots.
Because when you think about it, what is the link between wolf themes and Mpreg? Like, why would those things go together? The short answer is one ingenious supernatural fandom kink community on LiveJournal in 2010, but the short answer cannot possibly be the full answer, right? The short answer is unsatisfying to me. No matter how many times I've heard it. I have wondered to myself before, where the hell did Omegaverse come from? And people always tell me, oh, you know, it came from the supernatural fandom in 2010. And I'm not satisfied with that answer. Because there is no way that Pawn Far is innocent in this matter.
It is the Pawn Far. Time of mating.
If something incomprehensible is happening in fandom, it's almost certainly Star Trek's fault.
Yeah, suck it, Star Trek. You gave us Omegaverse. You made Kai suffer through Starfleet Academy.
It's in nature, Captain. Salmon. They must return to that one stream.
But you aren't a fish, Mr. Spock. You're...
No. Nor am I a man.
We're able to pinpoint pretty much the exact origin of Omegaverse thanks to a 2013 investigation by AO3 user Netweight. There are multiple problems with trying to track down how all of it happened that arise from sheer quantity of information to take into account, and the virtually impossible task to qualitatively analyze all of it, the transient nature of a good part of that information, this being fandom. Sometimes things are just taken down and that information is lost, or at least directly unverifiable, and the bias inherent in any retelling. So this is by no means an exhaustive or unbiased narrative. It's most certainly incomplete and partial. I've tried to include as much factual data as I could. And that is honestly the best any of us can do when it comes to topics of fandom history, internet archaeology. I think this was a valiant effort on Netweight's part, and it is so valuable now because it was possible for them to do in 2013. Whereas if I were to try and figure out what the original Omegaverse fix were from scratch in 2024, that would just not be possible. Archive your online communities, kids, because 11 years from now, some weird amateur fandom historian might thank you. As
Please, help us. We're needy.
Netweight explains, supernatural fandom was, right out of the gates, operating at a level of depravity more than...
Yeah, supernatural fan fictions is insane. The amount of shit these writers did to these siblings and their angel friend is insane.
Most. In the beginning, the only recurring characters on the show really were Sam and Dean, who were brothers. The formula for every episode was basically Sam and Dean roll up to a new small American town in their very cool car, and there's some like
for most
hot
of it
single mom who hits on Dean, usually Dean, but sometimes Sam, and then ooh, there's a goo of some sort that they have to investigate. Like, that's the show. Castiel doesn't show up until like season 5, so there are no shipping options for the fandom really, except for the brothers. Being opposed to incest, many members of the fandom decided to instead ship the actors who portray them, and generally...
Don't do that. Don't bring the actors into it. Don't do that.
These fanfictions revolved around Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki being actors on the show Supernatural and then having like some behind-the-scenes romance. Your most vanilla milk options upon entering the fandom were incest or RPF, which... both were and are very controversial, although now very closely associated with Tumblr. Supernatural fandom began on LiveJournal and was like mostly centralized on LiveJournal for the first couple of years. Around 2009, something called kink memes began to appear. According to TV Trope...
What are kink memes? I don't even know that.
A kink meme is where a user, usually anonymously, though the rules on this differ between kink memes, post a pairing and a kink, or some kind of basic plot setup, or some other stipulation, and another user then anonymously fills this request with either a piece of fan art or fanfic. A meme on LiveJournal did not necessarily have to be kink. There were various memes, obviously using the word meme in a very different sense than we use the word meme on the internet today. Basically, they were these communities where people would post creative prompts, and then other people would fulfill those prompts. And pretty much nothing was off limits in the supernatural kink memes. Like I said, they were already breaking a number of big taboos in fandom.
Ba-na-na-na. Hello, Raiders. My name is SilverDFanng. I'm a pirate wolfboy variety streamer. I do what I want. Right now, we are watching videos, and in particular, we're watching Strange Aeons, the biology and history of the Omegaverse. Welcome in, Glitchy. You came at a very interesting time. What were you up to? Come in. If you gotta go, I understand. But, yeah, we're learning way too much about fan fictions and the Omegaverse.
Merely by existing. Netweight's analysis of fanfictions.
Also, Blue, if you're paying attention, can you do a shout out for Glitchy? Thank you.
In the supernatural kink meme reveal that tags like Mpreg, Werewolf, and Alpha were all present from basically the inception of the community. All of the elements of Omegaverse predate Omegaverse. Omegaverse is like a super hulock of pre-existing fanfiction tropes.
Thank you, Kai.
The Vulcan mating cycle of Ponfar became an obvious tool for Kirk Spock fanfiction writers to use. It became
oh my god, yeah, if you want... So, fun fact, slash fiction. If you're wondering where that came, Star Trek. Slash fiction was started for writers who wanted Kirk and Spock to get together.
popular that it wound up being co-opted by other fandoms that didn't have any canonical reference for characters going into Heat, and it evolved into a trope known as fuck or die. The fuck or die trope involves some situation being created for some biological, magical, or scientific reason.
Incoming
Characters
at break.
must have sex immediately or very soon, or else face terrible physical pain, insanity, or even death. Another
Been there. Am I right, men and ladies? Ha ha. Okay.
very similar, however distinct trope is called sex pollen. This trope involves characters being infected by, not necessarily literally a pollen, but it could be some kind of alien fungus, some kind of magic potion, some kind of something that compels them towards romance.
There is an anime, or there's a hentai about living pollen dudes and women that literally just show up during like spring and just fuck the humans, kind of like an allergy.
Or sex where the characters otherwise would be completely adverse to that. I wonder what kind of absolute freaks would come up with such.
Star Trek!
I made a post on Tumblr asking for readers and writers of Omegaverse fiction to tell me their personal experiences with the genre, and one person explained it in a way that I think also explains these tropes that it came from very well. Basically, it creates a situation where two characters go absolutely feral over each other, even if there are lots of reasons why they wouldn't normally do so. Enemies? Rivals? Social hierarchy? Personal baggage? Too bad. You're banging now. Have fun figuring out your feelings about the situation afterwards. Tons of drama and angst for fanfiction writers to play with. Doesn't surprise me that these are popular tropes. And I would consider heat cycles to be a variant on those compelled to have sex for supernatural reasons tropes. A likely culprit for importing the idea of mating cycles into supernatural fandom specifically is another TV series that Jensen Ackles was in before Supernatural, so could share some fan overlap. It's this show called Dark Angel, where some of the characters...
I actually want to watch Dark Angel. It's James Cameron TV show. If you don't know, James Cameron did Titanic, TF2, Terminator 2, and the Avatar stuff. And I actually hear Dark Angel is pretty good for like a late 90s, early 2000s show.
Are genetically engineered soldiers. One of the things that has been added to their DNA is cat DNA, which gives them heat cycles. Well, it gives the female characters heat cycles.
Didn't know about that.
Of course, fanfiction writers play with some of the male characters having heat cycles as well.
Kendra was right. I am in heat, or something like that. All because they spiced up that genetic cocktail called me with a dash of feline DNA.
So I didn't watch Dark Angel, but I did watch Dollhouse, and this is giving me Dollhouse vibes.
So I can jump 15 feet of razor wire and take out a 250-pound linebacker with my thumb and index finger, which makes me an awesome killing machine and a hoot at parties. But it also means that 3 times a year I'm climbing the walls looking for some action.
Side note, I'm currently on episode 10 of Dark Angel. I didn't need to watch that much of it for this video. But it's very entertaining, and also I'm pretty sure the fandom is like dead and in the ground for 20 plus years now, so if anybody out there wants to like watch it with me, it is literally free on archive.org. Watch it with me. Let's
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to watch Dark Angel.
revive this ridiculous fandom. But back to more serious matters. We need to talk about Mpreg. Mpreg likewise predates Omegaverse by a lot. It was played with by various science fiction series throughout the 20th century, either because you have like humanoid aliens where the men can get pregnant, or you have human men altering their bodies in some way. Mpreg in fanfiction goes back at least to the 1980s. According to fan lore, the oldest surviving example is a fic from exactly 1980, in which, okay, for once it's not Star Trek the original series.
Darn.
It's a Star Wars fic in which Han Solo gets pregnant. However, the second oldest surviving example is in fact Kirk Spock, so there. So it does seem like it was science fiction fans who were first aware of the possibility of Mpreg, coming from being fans of a genre where biology is often played with like that. But once again, we see it being taken out of context and used by other fandoms where, like, it doesn't necessarily make sense to have the Beatles getting pregnant, but it has this appeal to fans, and so other fanfiction writers used it. In Ponfar, Mpregs, Bonds, and the Rise of Omegaverse, Christina Buse writes, Mpregs come in all shapes and sizes. As a result, can fulfill a vast variety.
Yeah, because original Star Trek really was the origin of a lot of fan fiction and a lot of culture, we say.
Of fan desires, a romantic need to create a love child between male lovers, an interest in pregnancy's emotional and physical fallout on a partnership, or even a fascination with the horrors of forced breeding. Even more than the heat trope, MPreg allows a female writer to play out themes of female bodies, concerns of gender and relationships, and issues of reproduction. Onto the werewolf stuff. It is not surprising that Omegaverse as we know it became popular in the wake of the
just a wolf man.
Supernatural
I'm not a werewolf.
Romance trend. Having like a super strong, dark and mysterious, semi-monstrous boyfriend was...
Let's go down the list. Spike, Angel from Buffy, Mosa Farscape, what other... whatever is going on Charm. There was a bunch of like demons and angels. Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s loved their mythological bad boys, or just dudes with powers.
All
yes,
the rage
yes,
for
Kai.
a hot minute there in the 2000s. It was a fun time to be in middle school. The kind of power dynamics you see in Omegaverse are inherent in a lot of supernatural romance as well. It's a slippery slope, you know? Like, if you already want an alpha werewolf boyfriend, like, you might as well give him a crazy inflating wolf penis. Coward. Before Omegaverse, there were werewolf AUs, in which you could find pack dynamics, pair...
I also remember Chewbacca porn. A lot of Star Wars fan fiction writers loved giving, like, Chewbacca a scent, like, kind of like an alpha ability before the Omegaverse, where, like, other women couldn't help but be attracted to Wookiees, and also Wookiee dicks had 2 knots. Yeah, no, so I knew about Omegaverse back when it was Wookiee fan fiction.
Bonding, alpha males, scenting, and in the kinkier stuff, yes, nodding. Respondents to my Tumblr post said, basically the original version of ABO that I was introduced to was that they were actual werewolves and the novelty were ABO dynamics. They could transform into wolves or had some other indication that they were hybrids of some kind, and it had that tinge of monster fucker charm. I didn't
Oh, Kai, there's a whole written and drawn series of Chewbacca getting it on with a lot of women in the series. Leia, Rey, a random back character.
Understand monster fucking at all before I started reading ABO, but the main things that got me hooked on ABO, animalistic urges, knots, and the breeding, are all through lines to werewolf fucking. It's an easy jump to make, and now I am a proud monster fucker of many varieties.
Amen.
Others noted that as time goes on, Omegaverse seems to move further and further from its wolfish roots. It was always distinct from the werewolf AU, but it used to be more related. Now it's like the werewolf AU has died out a bit more, and Omegaverse has moved more towards being just regular humans with some wolfish traits. And finally, let's talk a little bit about the power dynamics and dubcon scenarios featured in a lot of Omegaverse. Because this one is a trope as old as the romance novel itself. Back in the 18th and 19th century, when romance novels were first becoming a thing, it was not considered virtuous for a woman to express any sexual interest. So female protagonists, at least those that you were supposed to like and root for and who would be rewarded with a happy ending, tended to be very unwilling at first. Fast forward to mid-century saucy pulp novels and bodice rip.
Satan was a lesbian. Okay.
Fast forward to modern day bad boy romances, and they still tend to feature some variant on virtuous girl
both of these.
Boy who has no respect for her boundaries and would be super fucking creepy if he was real. It's about the ability.
Ladies and people that see, yeah, fuck it. Do you want a guy? Do you no? Do you like fan fiction about guys just dominating you?
To remove shame and guilt. I'm assigned female at birth, so there's a lot of good girls don't want sex that came with the Bible Belt upbringing, and man, that wasn't my experience. I wanted and I hated being socialized to feel bad about that. So horny ABO smut let me experience and write in a world where characters could just need to fuck, have sex, and be bonded to each other, and there's no shame in that. The fact that women, and some people who are no longer women but who were raised as women, have been writing this for literal...
She said it better than I was trying to say it.
Centuries has to do with the fact that many of them were denied the agency to seek out sex in their real lives. You will always see people who were raised with a lot of shame creating these fantasy scenarios where they can have sex even if they're not allowed to want it. I know that a lot of people are still really put off by this kind of thing in fiction. I know this is like an extremely polarizing topic, so just like don't be dicks, please.
That's fair.
I don't know, I really just feel defeated. Please don't be dicks. I know this is a really polarizing subject, but please don't be dicks.
Look, don't hate people because they're into Omegaverse. Don't shun them. But on the flip side, if you're someone that's like, it's like, why do you hate what? It's like, don't try defending Omegaverse. Just enjoy what you do, or what you enjoy. But it is laughable. It is funny.
I honestly just really like trying to understand where people are coming from. That's all. In July of 2010, the following prompt was posted to the Supernatural Kink meme. Their world is just like ours. Except, in their world there are two types of men. One is the alpha male. The other is the bitch male.
The bitch male!
Alpha males are like any other guy, with the exception of their cocks. They work like dog The bitch male is just an...
Oh, Kai, in my head, I'm just seeing scenes of gravitation. I get you.
Ordinary guy without a special cock. I'd like to see alpha male Jared and bitch male Jensen. The result was a fan fiction called I Ain't No Lady But You'd Be the Tramp by C. Familiaris on LiveJournal. The fic sets up the possibility of impregnation for betas, at the time they were called betas rather than omegas, and a kind of physiological bond triggered by genetic compatibility and the use of a birth control method, the morning after pill.
Sonny, please tell me you've been paying attention. Because, God, I would love your opinion on a lot of what we just heard. But Hear Me Out happens in 20 minutes. Damn it. Okay, I am probably, when I turn this into a reaction, I am sending it to you.
And alludes to the role of women in this society. Or rather, betas having the same role as women, getting married, having babies. But crucially, it created a whole dystopian 50s-esque society based on this...
Also, I felt like this would be a good video to watch before the Hear Me Out with Katya.
Gender division. At the same time, it reflected on its sexism/gender-based prejudice, and referred to the existence of more liberal movements that were pushing for equality, women's lib turned beta's lib. The Trampverse takes many of the trends and concepts that supernatural and non-fic memes were playing around with at the time.
I will hydrate. Thank you, Kai.
Animal traits, nodding, mpreg, bonding issues of consent, and coalesces them into one unified world that functions as some kind of mirror universe that both reiterates and gender flips roles, and opens the window for reflection on that world, and by extension, ours. Despite being declaredly written for kink, it blindsides its readers with world building about which the author had extensive ideas. It sets up many of the premises we now take for granted about ABO dynamics in one fell swoop, and it really was one of those, holy shit, what am I reading? This is amazing moments? People took notice. By November of 2010, the kink memanons had come up with the ideas of heats and hormone suppressants. They had coined the name Omega instead of bitch male, and coined the term beta for regular men. The kink meme was like this ongoing conversation where people were negotiating ideas without any shame and without any idea that they were creating a new genre. This soon resulted in another cornerstone fic of Omegaverse, Heat Between You and Me by the Miss LV. The Miss LV took a lot of notes from C. Familiaris in her world building. What was really annoying was that Jensen had lived his life vehemently opposed to being under anyone, much less an alpha. Being an Omega was no cakewalk. While equality movements had changed the laws in the last century, discrimination was still present. Old ways of thinking and stereotypes still surfaced from time to time, and it was hard when someone would offhandedly suggest Jensen belonged under someone, under an alpha, even a beta, just under. Omegaverse does often get a bad reputation for just reproducing gender essentialism, except it's fantasy men who can get pregnant this time, whoa! But the genre literally came right out of the gates, already destabilizing those fantasy gender roles. The abstinent Omega, or Omega...
Also, Silver, one day I'll have you suffer with me on watching Star Trek Fleet Academy. At this point, it's questioning so much. Kai, if you want to take any movie night and we watch a couple episodes of Starfleet, we could do that.
Omega who does not have sex with alphas could be seen to reflect the second wave radical feminist concerns about the dominance of male sexuality and the impossibility of women meaningfully consenting to sex with men under the conditions of patriarchy. The fact that such nuanced and complex negotiation of sexual scripts and power structures features so prominently in one of the earliest Omegaverse stories indicates that issues of inequality and consent have been at the core of the genre right from the beginning. After those first few stories from the supernatural kink meme blew up, those combined tropes which became Omegaverse continued to stick together, to be used together by other writers, and slowly the community began to define it more and more. One respondent to my Tumblr post wrote, "When it first became popular, I've noticed many people making up their own rules for how Omega, Alpha, and Beta people worked, since it was still new and not everybody followed the same pattern. For example, biting the back of the neck to mark someone as a mate wasn't as prevalent as it is today. Nowadays, everyone seems to be following the same set of agreed upon rules, following things such as suppressant pills, heats, markings, and what an Omega goes through. I must say, I am entirely too grateful that the universe of..."
From what we've been told in this video, what an Omega male or female goes through is just what a normal cis woman goes through. A period. Except hornier and less bloody. Gonna go eat the brownies I was given as a goodbye gift? Ooh.
Calling an alpha a jerk by saying knothead has died down. By 2011, it was spreading. Some of the first fandoms thought to be infected with Omegaverse are the ones that shared significant fan overlap with Supernatural. The term Omegaverse specifically is actually thought to have possibly been coined by Sherlock fandom. Certain fandoms refer to it more often as ABO Dynamics, or just as AO, but apparently the term Omegaverse was used like a disproportionately high amount by Sherlock fandom, and they might have been the ones who came up with it, according to NetWeight. So there's a fun fact for you. When I asked Tumblr users what fandoms introduced them to Omegaverse for the first time, answers included Hannibal, Teen Wolf, Avengers, Star Wars, Hitalia, Hamilton, Homestuck, Voltron, Criminal Minds, K-pop, RPF, X-Men, Attack on Titan, Harry Potter, Twilight, Welcome to Night Vale, Formula One, Death Note, Yuri on Ice, Hockey RPF, Dragon Ball Z, Legend of Korra, and BTS. And Omegaverse did not stop its growth and popularity with just Western fandoms. Male-male romance fiction produced by and for women is huge across Asia as well, and Omegaverse has become a known trope there too. In the paper, Between Boys Love and Slash, Danmei Fiction, Transcultural Mediation, and Changing Gender Norms in Contemporary China, the authors put forth the suggestion that Chinese Danmei novels are a place where ideas from Japanese boys love media and Western slash fiction sometimes commingle, and they use Omegaverse as an example of that. Danmei novels started to be self-published online around 1998. They differ from Western slash fiction in that they are most often original stories rather than fan fiction. They differ from Japanese boys love media in that they are often written prose rather than a visual medium like manga or anime. Everyone wants men
Mango! Shout out to my friend Mango.
to kiss, but their media about it is slightly different. In the early 2000s, Harry Potter fandom was the first to popularize the idea of translating English fan fictions for Chinese audiences. However, it was not until 2010 when Chinese Danmei fans fell en masse under the spell of BBC's miniseries Sherlock that Euro-American slash circles began to play a
Sherlock
heightened role in the Chinese Danmei scene. Thousands of fans of original Danmei novels, Japanese manga and anime, and Korean pop idols, all of whom generally used to have little interest in fan productions based on Euro-American media content, started to embrace Slash because of Sherlock.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks,
I'm
BBC
Toff.
Sherlock. So now, every time I struggle to
You brought us Cumberbatch. You brought us this.
plug my phone in the dark and keep missing the port, I will think about how BBC Sherlock would call me an alcoholic, and the fact that he's responsible for Omegaverse becoming popular internationally. In 2011, a translated work of Sherlock Omegaverse was posted to a very popular Danmei site. It was thought to be adopted by other writers on that website first, and then spread all over Asian fan spaces from there. Today, you can find many original Danmei stories which incorporate Omegaverse elements, as well as manga, webcomics, anime,
Alpha Wolf Girl X Omega Wolf Boy. I think I've seen that picture. The one on the right wasn't that turned into an anime like 2 years ago?
One person who responded to my Tumblr post wrote, "For me, the Omegaverse was a genre only for fanfics, so I was surprised when I started finding Omegaverse manga when I was about 17. I was shocked when they made Omegaverse anime. It felt like they were putting..."
Yep. This is it. Haven't watched it. I remember the internet really getting into it.
something out there that no one was supposed to see. The highest profile Omegaverse works thus far, I think, is probably Pit Babe, that Thai TV series.
Never heard of this. Pit Babe? Wow. Kai, we might have to watch Pit Babe.
I remember when it came out, everybody started messaging me like, Strange, they're Omegaverse, they're making an Omegaverse TV show. Strange, they're doing Omegaverse on TV. I haven't seen it, but apparently the creators said on Twitter that most of the explicitly Omegaverse elements ended up being cut by producers.
Boo, Korea.
Can still tell that it is informed by Omegaverse.
Boo,
For
Korea.
something to go from being made up collectively by a couple of anonymous users on a supernatural kink community to being a staple of fan communities all over the world and influencing actual televised content with budgets.
It sucks.
Within only 14 years of existence is kind of bonkers. Like, go Omegaverse? There is an obvious, huge and international appeal to Omegaverse, so it's obviously more complicated than haha crazy wolf porn. In fact, respondents to my Tumblr post told me that the trend over time, at least in fanfiction spaces, tends to be away from its origins in wolf-inspired porn. The trend now is more towards emphasis on world building and social commentary, and the porn is definitely still there, but it's down to less than 50%. I've already hinted at the ways that it might be a tool for women and queer people to examine gender in really interesting ways, and in my next video I will be taking a much closer look at that, the potential literary value of Omegaverse, the discourse around its ability to both replicate gender inequality, misogyny, transphobia in unhelpful ways, and equally its ability to do really smart social commentary, provide catharsis, etc., when in the hands of a good writer. And you better stay tuned, because that rabbit hole is just as deep as this one. Also, I have like really cool new merch. Remember to go check that.
I like her merch. This was fun. Thank you, Strange Aeon. I learned way too much, but I had a good laugh. Thanks for checking out this video. Check me out on Twitch, SilverDFanng, 2 N's in Fang. Check me out on Twitter and Blue Sky under the same name. Also TikTok. Have a great night.